Hi Pira, it's another response. I wanted to respond to this video because it really made me think a lot about my own current research and general thoughts about things. In particular, I haven't watched the original video that you're responding to in this video, the video that I'm responding to, but as far as the topic of we are all one, I can see that. And it depends on how you look at it, I think. Just because, I agree we're connected, but it's, depending on what level of abstraction that you look at, the connection itself can lead to the creation of a oneness. Like, we can look at the level of planet, and think of the analogy of the cells in the body. If you look at it at the individual level of the cell, then maybe my hair cell and my liver cell aren't one, but if you look at it at the level of the entire body, in that sense they are one. But, like I said, I didn't watch the original video, so I don't know if that's what that person meant. And just in addressing that arch metaphor, I thought that was really interesting. For me, I would approach it more from a perspective of social psychology, because that's what I study and what I'm interested in. And you were describing the arch in terms of society. What I was actually thinking was social identity theory, or group dynamics, and social identity, that itself, the knowledge you have of your membership in certain groups, social identity, and social identity theory, it's about the different processes that people go through when they're behaving at a group level. So, just in addressing, I guess, one of your points, which is about hierarchy, I would see hierarchy as being about, a few things, namely status, just because if you're analyzing from the point of view of social identity theory, there's one of the assumptions inherent in that is that when acting as a group, or conceiving of themselves at a group level, people want distinctiveness, and they want to feel positively about their group, because part of their self-concept comes from the groups that they belong to, and there's the assumption that we want to feel good about ourselves, and we want to have esteem, and we get a sense of esteem from feeling good about the group that we belong to. And in sort of the society, or the intergroup situation that you would be talking about, hierarchy, to me, that would just be a cultural resource. By cultural resource, I mean that the dynamic between the groups is that you want to, you being general to whatever group, want to gain or maintain status for yourself, or for your group, because you want to feel good about your group. And so that's the process. Whereas hierarchy it would be cultural specific. That is to say, if a culture had some other resource for gaining status, then there would be a different behavior that comes out of it. Not necessarily hierarchy. It's just that hierarchy is a cultural resource that we Western people have. And that's also related to the way you describe labor, and about intellectual labor and going down to manual labor. I would say that if there was a sort of a cultural ethos that said only those who are the highest and the best can work manually, or work with the land, or whatever, imagining things now because it's sort of the opposite of what we've had in our, we being Western culture, what we've had. But if there were a culture where working with the land or doing manual labor was the high status thing, then that's what you'd see people at the top doing. The other thing I wanted to just mention in terms of my thoughts about this, the keystone idea, that's really, really clever and really interesting. I'll have to explain a little bit about self-categorization theory. Self-categorization theory is basically the processes that make group behavior possible. And essentially what that means is people, the ways that people are able to conceive of themselves and some set of others as being members of the same category. And one of the things that happens when you're able to do that is you see yourself and these others as interchangeable to a certain extent. You're interchangeable when you're referring to a specific category that contains all of you. Another one of the ways that this happens is that people who feel themselves to be part of a group or a category will have what's called a prototype. Now, what's interesting about the prototype is that it isn't necessarily an averaging of all of the people who are in the category. It's an idealized form. In fact, it might not actually represent anyone in the category. And when you were talking about the keystone, that's the thing that popped into my head, which was, that would be the prototype of a category, or whatever category that people are trying to organize themselves in. So, one more point, which is dogmatism. I see dogmatism as being a way that people can enforce or maintain their position or their status position within the intergroup context. And I think that especially with religious dogmatism, when you can appeal to something that's outside of the situation, the social situation that you're in, that's a neat little trick because it allows people who are in power or who want to gain power to say that it's not me saying it, it's not really me, this is coming from out there, and out there is what's controlling us, creating us, or telling us what to do. And so, again, I look at that as being a cultural resource for maintaining status positions, or seeking to gain status. Yeah. So, I think that's about as much as YouTube is going to allow me to say about this. So, there it is.